Good afternoon, everyone. As we're waiting for all the attendees to come into the room, if you just be patient for about another 30 seconds, we'll get the program underway. There's lots of you out there today. I see attendees still making their way into the room. We don't want anyone to miss anything, so we're just going to pause for about another 20 seconds before we get underway. All right, well, I want to welcome everyone. Good afternoon. This afternoon, we're going to hear about the new CARES Act funding available to New Jersey businesses from the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. I want to thank the presenting partners today. Of course, I'm Michelle Sakirka, President and CEO with NJBIA, but I'm very thankful to the Chamber of Commerce of Southern New Jersey. Thank you, Christina Renna. To Tony Russo with Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey, and to Tom Bracken with the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. All together, we're bringing you this program today so that we can help to inform businesses of the opportunities that will soon be available to you through the EDA. Before I turn it over to Tim, though, we do have some sponsors that I'd like to acknowledge today. And those sponsors include Domain Computer Services, the New Jersey Elder Law Center, NJM Insurance Group, UCEDC, the Union County ELC, Infinium, New Jersey Audubon, and Northfield Bank. Thanks so much, because without your support, programs like this are not available. So, last week, Governor Murphy announced that there'll be a new round of grants available for specific New Jersey businesses, and we're pleased today to have Tim Sullivan, who is the CEO with the Economic Development Authority, to share that program with us. So, Tim, I'm going to hand the program over to you. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you for that very kind introduction, and most importantly, thanks to you and your team for hosting this and putting on handling the logistics behind getting us together so quickly after the governor's announcement last week. Let me also echo Michelle's thanks and appreciation for the co-hosts, to Tony and Christina and Tom and their teams for their partnership on this webinar, on so many other outreach efforts during this crisis, and so much else that we work on together and that they advocate for. In good times and bad times. Really appreciate the partnership we have there. And let me also, always a bad idea not to thank the sponsors. Let me thank the sponsors as well. Appreciate their support for this and helping us get the word out. I want to jump right into it because we got a lot to cover. You're all busy people. If you're taking the time to watch a webinar about a small business emergency assistance grant program, it means you're dealing with in real time the economic crisis that has been spawned by this public health crisis, both of which are historic in scale. None of us who are alive can, maybe a few people remember the Spanish flu of 1918 and 1919, and maybe a few folks remember the Great Depression, but those are the kind of relevant comparisons we're talking about when we think about what's going on public health-wise and when we think about what's going on as a result economically. And so I want to jump right into it. As Michelle said, last week, Governor Murphy, Senate President Sweeney, Speaker Coughlin, Lieutenant Governor Oliver, and as well as Senator Menendez and Congressman Malinowski were all together in Hillsborough to announce a $100 million allocation of CARES Act money to support economic recovery. Some of that money is going to groups like DCA and some of the rental assistance programs, as well as food security programs. What we're here to talk about today is the EDA related programs, which is our emergency assistance grant program, now operating in phase 3. Who would have thunk we would be still expanding the number of phases into October when we started this back in March, but here we are. We'll keep going as long as there's funding and a need. As well as a new program we're rolling out that's our PPE platform that one of my colleagues, Brian Sabina, will talk about when we get to it in a few minutes. So let me just start with a little bit of framing, and Christina Fuentes, who runs our small business effort and does so much in addition to all the other things she does, is running the slides. So if you hear me saying, Christina, can I have the next slide? That's the great Christina Fuentes. We're also joined by Patience Purdy, who does so many great things at the EDA, is our Director of Strategic Initiatives and Outreach. So this is both a strategic initiative and outreach, so thank you, Patience. Christina, if I go to the next slide, please. So just to set the frame a little bit, so again, Governor Murphy has recognized from the get-go of this crisis that obviously first and foremost this is a public health crisis, but it's also an economic crisis, and it's in particular a small business crisis, and even more particularly a small business crisis that's being experienced disproportionately by businesses owned by women and people of color. And so that's really driven how we've thought about how to approach the support efforts and the economic relief package that the governor supported and that we've been responsible for running here at the EDA. It's really had 5 different pieces of it. The Emergency Assistance Grant Program is really kind of the biggest dollar figure and the kind of the bread and butter and usually the most interesting topic. We've also been running a small business loan program. We've been partnering with CDFIs, Community Development Finance Institutions, to leverage our capital to stretch our dollars as best we can, as well as a pretty innovative entrepreneur support program to help startups that can't access loan capital or sort of pre-revenue, pre-income. As well as a technical assistance program. Our programs, the SBA programs, they're all well-meaning, they're all reasonably complex, and so making sure that businesses, particularly again from historically disadvantaged communities, whether those are veteran-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, we've been partnering with groups like the statewide Hispanic Chamber, the African American Chamber, the statewide Veterans Chamber, to provide technical assistance to businesses in accessing all these programs. Because again, there's lots of them. I work on this, it's my full-time job working on these kinds of programs, and I have a tough time keeping track of all of them. So we're trying to do our best to make sure businesses know what the programs that are out there. Next slide, please, Christina. So what we're talking about, and just to mention the scope of the challenge, we've already supported more than 21,000 businesses as of end of last week. That number clicks up by a couple hundred every day. 21,000 businesses, small businesses directly supported by our programs, with over $76 million of direct support so far. And that's for an organization like the EDA, which usually deals with a couple hundred businesses a year on a direct basis, whether that's your tax credits or our small business lending. 21,000 businesses and only set to grow via the programs we're going to talk about today is just an extraordinary volume for us to be working with, and speaks to both the volume of the need and also the degree to which our team has really stopped on a dime and pivoted and stood these programs up. So I want to take a moment and thank the team that I have the privilege of working with every day at the EDA, who's been working tirelessly night in, night out, day in, day out to get these programs run efficiently and with the right compliance and oversight, but also with speed. Next slide, please, Christina. So importantly, again, as we talked about equity and the lens of focusing on equity and diversity and inclusion, 20% of the funding in phase 2 has gone to minority-owned businesses, 23% to women-owned businesses, 2% to veteran-owned businesses, 36% of the grants are for businesses in opportunity zone eligible census tracts. These are low-income, high unemployment census tracts around the state, where there's a significant need and significant challenges prior to this crisis that have only gotten worse. And so our efforts to drive capital where we think it can have the biggest impact have been, I think, we're pleased with our progress. More to do, and certainly not declaring mission accomplished, but certainly progress has been made on those dimensions. Next slide, please. So what you're probably here to hear most about, the incremental $70 million, 70 million. Couple features of this. One, we're expanding the eligibility, so small businesses up to 50 full-time equivalents are eligible. This time we're going larger award sizes, up to $20,000. I'll talk about this in more detail, I promise. As well as targeted funding for both restaurants and micro businesses, probably the 2 parts of our economy that have had the hardest go of it and have the hardest continuing go of it as we head into the fall and winter here. Importantly, there is a pre-registration process that launched this morning. We're recording this on Monday, the 19th of October, launched this morning. The good news is it's a multi-day process, and it's meant to alleviate the stress of this application process. This is a pre-registration process you just have to complete before the application window opens at the end of the month. So if you don't get in today, we're having a couple technical hiccups along the way. If you don't get in today, if it doesn't work for you, we've got 7 or 8 more days left of pre-registration. It's open over the weekend. It's open 24/7. And this just lets us get a handle on how many applications are going to be there. It'll allow you to submit a lot of your information in advance. So when that window opens at 9 o'clock on those days, that I'll talk about in a moment, there's not as much pressure and stress. There'll still be probably plenty of pressure and stress, but this is trying to alleviate that. It'll also allow us to make approvals even more quickly than the first couple rounds. So then again, so the pre-registration is running today through the 27th. You have to do pre-registration before the 27th at 5 p.m. It won't be open during the grant application period. That you'll need the password and the login you're going to get by pre-registering in order to enter your application. And then on October 29th, we'll open the restaurant window. On the 30th, we'll open the window for micro businesses. And on Monday, November 2nd, all other applicants, all those small businesses between 6 and 50 full-time equivalents will be eligible to start applying. Next slide, please. So restaurants, obviously significant challenges in the restaurant world, driven in my view, primarily by consumer behavior and how we're seeing that across the country, that it's not just, it's really about how consumers are choosing to engage with restaurants until the virus is under control and until people feel confident going out and having a good time we all like to have at a restaurant, whether that's a small diner or big catering hall and everywhere in between. So this is eligible for all NAICS codes that start with 722, food services or drinking places. That's bars, that's coffee shops, that's bagel places, that's restaurants, diners, seasonal businesses, all of the above. Got to be in New Jersey, of course. Got to be registered with New Jersey. Got to be in good standing, and you're going to have to, again, like all of our programs, you have to certify your intent not to lay off any workers. We recognize that restaurants in particular are having significant challenges on the employment side, and so this is a best efforts request. 3 buckets, small, medium, and large, sort of a restaurant pun, I suppose. 5 or fewer employees, $10,000, 6 to 25, $15,000, 26 to 50, $20,000. So these would be our biggest grants that we've done during this process so far. The biggest grants in round 2 were $10,000 for anybody. Again, you've got to pre-register between now and October 27th at 5 o'clock, and then the applications for restaurants will open Thursday, October 29th at 9 a.m. First come, first serve. So get your pre-registration done in advance and make sure then you're ready to rock on the morning of the 29th if you are a restaurant. Next slide, please. The next day, the window will open for micro businesses. This is 5 and under full-time equivalents. Again, the same basic requirements, physical location in New Jersey. And this is all meant to be pretty simple. The last time there was a formula that said how many employees you had was going to calculate how many dollars of grant money you might receive. This time we're making it a little simpler. If you have 5 or fewer, you're getting $5,000 if you're otherwise eligible and qualify. Again, got to pre-register between now and the 27th at 5 p.m. And then on the morning of Friday, October 30th, happy Halloween, the micro business window will open. Again, first come, first serve. And so please make sure to get pre-registered. Please make sure to get signed up. It's worth noting, something like 90% or more of minority-owned businesses, primarily Black and Latinx owned businesses, are either sole proprietorships or other forms of micro businesses. And so this program is really designed to direct and provide specific resources to some of our hardest hit communities, which particularly communities of color that are, again, bearing the public health crisis disproportionately and bearing the economic crisis disproportionately. So the micro business program is, I think, a significant signal of Governor Murphy's focus on equity and inclusion and a fair, and not just a strong, but a fairer recovery here as well. Next slide, please. And then finally, the kind of everybody else bucket. This will open on Monday, November 2nd. Again, slightly larger firms, businesses are eligible this time around. Last time it was capped at 25. This time it's capped at 50. Again, kind of a simpler approach this time. If you're between 6 and 25, you're going to get up to $10,000. The up to is driven by how much your need is. By the way, if you can only demonstrate that you've had a COVID impact of, say, $8,000, and you have between 6 and 25 employees, your grant would be $10,000. That's a federal rule. The sad reality is, I think most businesses, the longer this goes, even small businesses won't have much trouble demonstrating, that level of economic impact from COVID. So I expect most of those awards will be $10,000 and $15,000, depending on the size. Again, this is $20 million with larger grants. Again, same basic requirements. Got to be this is businesses and nonprofits. You have to, have the physical location in New Jersey. Have to be registered to do business here. You have to be in good standing with our colleagues at labor. All those things that you'd expect, given that these are public dollars. Again, pre-registration between now and the 27th, end of the business day, 5 o'clock. And then applications of this one will open Monday, November 2nd at 9 a.m. And again, first come, first serve for the everybody else bucket as well. I expect we'll be oversubscribed, by the way, in all 3 buckets. So please make sure to check the right date time for when your lane goes live. Next slide, please. Again, so we did this at the phase 2 grant, and I think it worked reasonably well. We're reserving at least 1/3, 33% of the funding for each of those 3 buckets for eligible businesses that are located in opportunity zone eligible census tracts. Again, these are high poverty, high unemployment, low income census tracts. that data predates the crisis. Those things have likely only gotten worse during this terrible crisis. If you don't need to know necessarily if you're in one of those census tracts. Our application will know that for you. If you want to look that up in advance, there's on the COVID business portal, which is cv.business.nj.gov. You can check that out. We also have language access services available for non-English speaking applicants. You can apply in Spanish, and then there's language support for 9 additional languages, which are listed here on the slides. If one of those 11 languages is not the language you are most comfortable in, you can contact us at languagehelp@njebia.com, and we will figure out a way to help you in your primary language. We've got translation services available to help us, to help you, more importantly, navigate this, because we do want this to be open to everyone who's eligible in the state. Next slide, please. And again, please, just noting the application, the static version of the application will be, and all the sort of outreach we're doing is available in lots of different languages, not just English and Spanish, but the same 9 languages I referenced earlier. So we're really trying to make a concerted effort to reach deep into New Jersey's wonderful small business community that is so diverse and as diverse as the rest of as the whole state. So this is an important priority for Governor Murphy and for our entire team. Next slide, please. Okay, so we will likely publish the application itself, the flat version, so you can look up all the questions. This will be an open book test. We'll have that application published probably in the next 2 or 3 days, so it'll be up for a week at least before it goes live. It's not up at this very minute, but it'll be up this week. That'll be located, the sample application, the flat version will be at cv, as in coronavirus.business.nj.gov. That's the same location where the actual live application will go on the 29th, the 30th, or the 2nd. So cv.business.nj.gov is an important website. Things you'll need: contact information, primary business address. You're going to need those things, again, pretty basic stuff. Really importantly, if you've gotten other government assistance, whether it's EDA, whether it's PPP from the SBA or the other SBA programs, be prepared to provide information about the status, the uses, and the amounts. There's a thing called duplication of benefits. You can't get paid for the same expense twice. If you've got those things, that does not mean you're not eligible for the program that we're talking about today. It just means you have some extra work to do to show us that if you got a PPP loan and use that to pay for, June payroll and rent, you can't get a grant from us now to pay for June payroll and rent. You got to use it for October, November payroll and rent, or PPE purchases in October, November, whatever the eligible use might be. You just can't use it for the same. You can't get funded for the same expense twice. You need to know the basics of your business: your full legal name, the one you use when you register with the state, what kind of entity you are, what year you were established, your tax ID, your employment numbers through the first quarter of 19 and 20 when the crisis began, your NAICS code, and your revenue. And you need to show your annual revenue for 2019 and an estimate of the revenue you lost due to COVID-19. Again, so the pre-registration has now opened at 9 a.m. And so we'll talk about pre-registration. This is for the application. You need to pre-register starting now. Next slide, please, Christina. Which is now live. Again, having a couple of technology hiccups late this morning and this afternoon, but I'm confident those will get resolved ASAP and continue to proceed. It's working. It's just not working as quickly as we would like. And so on the next slide, we'll start to talk about what the pre-registration entails. So again, it'll be open from 9 o'clock today until close of standard business at 5 o'clock on the 27th. And again, all this information, the go-to website for any of this stuff, cv, as in coronavirus.business.nj.gov. Next slide, please. So this is pretty simple. You log on, you're going to go, and you've got to go to register, and you got to enter your email and a password, and that's how we're going to find you. We had a lot of challenges in the first 2 rounds where we were getting emails that weren't quite working for people. So this pre-registration process is a way to make sure we've got really good, crisp contact information. So you click on pre-registration, you register. It's going to send you an email to confirm you. It's like, anytime you do anything from e-commerce, you're basically setting up a new account. And you'll set that up, and then you'll have a login. And that login will be what you're going to need on the big day of the application going live. Next slide, please. So then, again, this is you're going to click on when you click on register. You're going to pick your own password, pick your own name, pick your own email address, but make sure it's a good one. Make sure to be checking your spam file and a spam folder and other things like that, because you're going to potentially get contacted. You're going to get an email pretty quickly, and make sure you're able to check that and verify the link. That's how we'll know where you are and how to reach you, and that's sort of a verified way we'll know where to reach you to contact you throughout the process, which is obviously critical. Next slide, please. So then you're going to create a little profile for yourself. First name, last name, phone number is required. You're going to have to confirm your email. You get pretty basic kind of name, rank, serial number kind of stuff. Next slide, please. And then again, you're going to just continue to confirm your email. And again, the email is the most important part of this pre-registration process. There are other important parts too, but the email is the most important because the number of sort of somewhere between dead and unworkable email addresses we got in the first couple rounds, that was one of the logistical challenges that we continue to chop through here. Next slide, please. So then again, once then you're going to have you'll have your pre-registration login. You're going to go in and say start my pre-registration. See that blue box on the lower right hand side there with the green arrow next to it. You're going to click on that to start your pre-registration. Next slide, please. Again, you're going to re-enter some of your basic contact information as well as some questions like whether you're authorized to sign things on behalf of your business entity, some of the basic things. These are things that were in the application last time. We're just sort of front loading them now in a less time sensitive way. So if they're already loaded, actually we can start vetting and verifying them in advance. Next slide, please. Again, business address. This is really important because it's going to drive your opportunity zone eligibility. If you're in an opportunity zone, or Wizard will know about it, whatever it's called, the computer will know in some way, shape, or form what census tract you're in. You're going to get asked if you're a home-based business. Home-based businesses are eligible, but we need to know that, and we need to know basically as well, sort of yes, no if you've got a commercial location. Next slide, please. Again, just some basic organizational details like when you were established and became operational. Are you still operational today? That's important from a eligibility perspective if you're no longer operating. Significant and deep sympathies for what's happened, but that's not likely going to make you eligible for a grant program here. And then the ownership structure, LLC, sole prop, those kinds of questions. And then you're going to add some information about the owners. Next slide, please. Again, just continuing to do organizational details. Again, a lot of this is stuff, if you did phase 1 or phase 2 of our application, these are the kinds of questions you got. Then we're sort of front loading them into the pre-registration process so that we can have a little slightly more measured and lower stress, lower sort of anxiety approach to the application process. So it's going to ask you questions like, did you use a professional employment organization to file your WR-30? Because that, again, we now know, having gotten smarter going through this the last 5, 6, 7 months, that creates a different set of data questions for us. It's going to ask you if you filed your taxes under Schedule C or E, and then you need to provide the Social Security number for the business. Just different quirks and particularities and nuances that we've sort of discovered along the way here. So continue to add your organizational details here. Next slide, please. And again, FTE, as reported on your full-time employees, not to be confused with full-time equivalents, for your Q1 and Q2 WR-30s, the number of part-time employees, the number of 1099s you have, and your total 2019 revenue. These are going to give us these are going to help us figure out more than anything else how subscribed or oversubscribed or undersubscribed we are in various buckets, because we could, in theory, if we're way oversubscribed in restaurants and undersubscribed in one of the other 2 buckets, we could, in theory, plan to move some money around. No promises or guarantees or representations or warranties that we would do that, but that's why we're asking this kind of information, to get a sense of the likely volume of applications that we're going to see. Next slide, please. You're going to have to tell us business tax returns you filed with the state, 2018, 2019, or none. None of those are disqualifying, but it just creates a different level of, or different types of review. Again, these are just things, if we know them in advance, we can screen the applications and begin to pre-review them differently. Next slide, please. We want to, some basic demographic information. Are you minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, disabled-owned, or I do not wish to identify? Perfectly acceptable answer, and allows us to gather some information on who's applying here. Next slide, please. And then again, business category, your NAICS code. If you don't know your NAICS code, we can help you look it up. There's a search function, and then it's going to ask you in your previous 6 quarters, which quarter did your business have the highest employment? We're going to take the high water mark for determining your eligibility, which we think is the most sort of generous way to do so. So if you're a seasonal business, we're going to look at the last 6 quarters. So you get last summer or last fall, depending on what when your peak seasonality is. If you're a holiday, if you're a Halloween shop or something, we're going to look at the last 6 quarters and take the peak to determine your eligibility. And then looking for your WR-30 information and how many W-2 employees you reported on your WR30. So again, just basic employment information. Next slide, please. And then again, some business details. These are basically yes, no questions. If you answer no, you're not going to be able to apply, and this is going to tell you that in advance. So if you, let's pick one. Does the entity conduct auctions, bankruptcy sales, fire sales, lost our lease, going out of business, or similar sales? If that's you, stop here. You're not going to be able to go any further. So we're trying to weed out folks and keep folks from filling out applications they don't need to. Do you conduct business for any illegal purposes? My guess is if you do, you're probably not going to want to tell it to the government, but that would also be a disqualifying piece of information here. So some basic screening questions for eligibility here. Next slide, please. And then electronic signature. So basically authorizing us to use this data to start pulling things from our sister agencies. So for example, Department of Labor, WR30 mentioned several times. We'll start to populate some of our data pulls that we do from our sister agencies. And you are agreeing to that and a few other things here. And you agree to be bound by electronic signatures. You're verifying that you're an authorized signer for the business. You're not just someone who's curious about how the grant program works, but you're someone who can sign things on behalf of the business. Most of the small businesses we're dealing with, the owner is the applicant here, but if you're a bookkeeper or a licensed agent, that's okay. If you're someone who works there and freelancing a bit, you are not an authorized signer for the organization. So make sure to talk to whoever is and get them to fill out the application. And that's it. That's pre-registration. So that's going to do a huge chunk of the work you're going to need to do on this on the application process is through this pre-registration, which again is open until is open for 7 or 8 more days as we sit here right now. So it's not like a rush. If you don't get it in today, if you don't get it in the first 15 minutes, you're going to run out of money. The clock starts on 9 o'clock on the 29th, 30th, and the 2nd, depending on what kind of business you're in. That's the day you got to be up at 9 o'clock, and everything's got to go perfectly for both you and for us on the technology side. So definitely circle those days in your calendars. Make sure you're up and fully caffeinated and ready to rock at 9 o'clock on those days, because those are, we will highly likely be oversubscribed. We'll know how oversubscribed we're likely to be via the pre-registration process, but I'm not a big gambler, but I put a decent amount on us being oversubscribed. Next slide, please. And then you'll get a confirmation your pre-registration has been submitted. It's going to, again, that email address that you provide is a really important piece of information. Don't use the email you never check. Use a good email, because it's going to be critical. And that'll basically bring you to the end of, they'll give you a pre-registration number, and that'll bring you to the end of pre-registration. So this is a really important part of the process that's new and different. You have to fill out pre-registration. You cannot pre-register the morning of the application. You cannot do it once the application window opens. It's a separate application. And again, this is designed, we're up against quite a bit of a time crunch to get this funding out, again, responsibly but expeditiously by the end of the year, by the end of this calendar year. This pre-registration will allow us to much more efficiently and rapidly review your applications. So that's why we're asking folks to do this, requiring folks to do this, because it's critical to our ability to review these. Again, do the right things, have the right oversight, ask the right questions, but also move with some efficiency and some alacrity. So appreciate everyone's patience, particularly again, as we're having a modest amount of IT hiccups today, but I'm confident we'll get through that. But maybe by the time we've even hung up from this call, but maybe a little longer. But next slide, please. Okay, then we're going to talk about the full application. Again, I've been prattling on here for a few minutes. I promise I'm going to shut up soon. Things you're going to need for the application. Again, we'll publish the flat version of it. You'll be able to see every single question in a couple of days here. But questions you're going to need to really is going to focus on the COVID-19 impact. You will have told us almost everything about your business that's relevant to the application questions, except the COVID-19 impact, and that's what the application is going to be about. Were you deemed essential based on EO 104? Are you a nonprofit? If so, what type? What capacity was your business able to reopen? Have you received other COVID-19 assistance? What's your revenue loss? What's your additional financial need? Again, these are all things that sad sense of the situation is that lots of folks will not have trouble documenting significant financial need. And then what would the grant proceeds be used for if they're approved? If you're approved, those are the kinds of questions that you should expect to see on the application. Again, we'll have that up. Today's Monday at 2:32. We'll have that up within probably 48 hours from today, all at cv.business.nj.gov. Next slide, please. We'll also, we did this the first couple rounds as well. We have a grant size estimator. You can tell us how many employees you have. It'll tell you how many, what category you're likely to apply for. This is because we're using full-time equivalents. So you get partial credit for part-timers. I know that's particularly for restaurants out there, that's highly relevant. This will help you determine which bucket you're in, small, medium, or large, or too big, which is certainly possible. We've got plenty of restaurants that employ more than 50 people, we know that, and more than 50 FTE even. So this is, you enter sort of a little worksheet here, and it'll tell you your likely grant size. That assumes you've got enough unmet need, it assumes you're otherwise eligible, but it's sort of a little pocket calculator for how to estimate the size of the grant you might receive. Next slide, please. And again, so there's a little bit more on the eligibility estimator. Next slide, please. At this point, I'm going to hand it to my colleague Brian Sabina, who hopefully we didn't lose. There he is, to talk about another program that is running sort of in parallel and has a same macro purpose, which is supporting small businesses, but a more specific mission and purpose, which is around PPE, personal protective equipment, which we know is a critical element of getting reopened, staying reopened, and surviving and thriving during this incredibly challenging time. So with that, Brian, want to tell us a little bit about this program?
Sure. Thanks. Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you to the team at BIA and all of the sponsoring organizations for helping to create this opportunity. As Tim said, we're very excited about the $70 million going towards grants phase 3. Another program that is really a partner kind of parallel program is the Small and Micro Business PPE Access Program. Really, the program was born out of feedback from the Governor's Restart and Recovery Commission that many small businesses provided lots of input to, that I know a lot of the sponsoring organizations that are helping to put on this event provided a lot of feedback into. And one of the things we heard was that one of the key things that small businesses needed and micro businesses, those very small business needed, was support on PPE, personally protective equipment, really to make sure that you're able to protect your employees as well as your customers. And that in addition to everything else that's going on, this is a new challenge given the supply chain pressures that we've seen, especially in the spring, through the summer, and now that we're seeing again through the fall as we see cases spike. As well as cost pressures, right? This is an unplanned for expense that many businesses have to take on now. So we're rolling out this program. It's in total around a $24 million program through a really innovative public-private partnership model, and it's split across 2 phases. The first phase of the program was targeted at doing a few different things. One, it was how do we build a tool that helps small businesses really understand and plan for the amount of PPE that they need between now and the end of the year and now through the end of flu season. So we've worked with partners at the Department of Health, OSHA, the CDC, as well as some of our local county health officials to build out what we'll call a PPE planning tool. And that can be found at covid19.nj.gov/PPE access. It's right off the state's main COVID-19 information portal. It really allows you to go in a much more easily digestible format, see all the guidance around PPE. You may have some questions, you can kind of ask them there, and then really calculate how much you need for your business. That was kind of part 1 of phase 1. Part 2 of phase 1 was we wanted to provide discounts on PPE to all businesses that are based in New Jersey. So we've gone out and we've engaged a set of vendors, which we're calling designated vendors, to come in and offer at minimum a 10% discount for PPE for anyone who clicks through this program site. And we're quite excited about that. We're not quite ready to announce who some of those vendors are, but I can tell you we've had about 14 applications. We have a handful of folks who are national brand name retailers who have just asked to partner with us to provide really an easy way for small businesses to buy PPE at a discount. We've worked with them to curate the list of PPE, so when you go on, you don't see 100 different versions of 3-ply masks. You get a handful that just makes your decision-making process a lot easier, and you're getting products that they verify the quality of. So if you go onto that covid19.nj.gov/PPE access website, pretty soon we'll have a listing of 2 to 3 and hopefully growing lists of vendors that you can get this 10% discount from. We've also created as part of phase 1 a program that says if those kind of national online retailers purchase some PPE that's either manufactured here in New Jersey or from a small wholesaler based in an Opportunity Zone eligible census tract, will help subsidize the cost of that national vendor buying from a New Jersey business at around 20 cents on the dollar. So we'll help subsidize the cost to make sure that we're building our local supply chain and really benefiting our small and local businesses. That's phase one. One, getting a tool built, two, creating online vendors and pools for discounts, and three, a funding pool for PP that's bought in New Jersey. Phase two of the program really builds upon that, and it allocates, and our board just approved this last week, $20.5 million of grant funding for small and micro-sized businesses to purchase PPE and to get discounts on that PPE through the vendors. So the way it will work is you're eligible on top of the 10% that you would normally get. Businesses that are under 100 FTE are eligible to get an additional 25% off of their bill. That 25% is capped per company, and it's $400 per company if you're kind of a general company in the state, and $500 per company if your business is located in one of those 715 Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts. Basically, you can think about it like you'll get a $400 or a $500 coupon or discount that you can use through these vendor sites. You'll have about 2 weeks to use that coupon, and you'll be able to get, as I said, 25% off your PPE purchase. It's a way for us to really help make sure that we can help a lot of businesses access the support they need for this critical equipment. More information can be found on this covid19.nj.gov/PPE access program. Last thing I will say, and some of the feedback we've been getting from small businesses is that by partnering with these major vendors online, we've taken a lot of the guesswork out of it. So we've made the application process really real time. So when we launch later this fall, later this month, it'll be kind of a immediate eligibility assessment. You'll be able to kind of near immediately go onto those websites, buy your PPE. That discount will come directly off of your shopping cart there. So there's no kind of keeping receipts, no worrying about duplication of benefit in this program. EDA and those designated vendors are going to take care of all of the paperwork on the back. So really, this is hopefully a very streamlined and easy program that can help a lot of small and micro-sized businesses. I'll pause there because I know that we've been talking for a handful of minutes, and happy to answer questions on either the Grants Phase 3 program or the PPE Access program.
Great, thanks, Brian. So yeah, I think that brings us, Patience, I just cut you off, I didn't mean to. Hey,
no, it's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, first of all, thanks to Brian, who's been leading the charge with a great team, including Office of Innovation and lots of folks throughout the state government to bring together this PPE platform, which is an innovative tool and something we're excited about. Fingers crossed that it goes well once we launch it, but we're excited about it, and I think it brings together, again, a really interesting public-private partnership here to provide a much needed set of supports for small businesses. Again, so yeah, we're hopefully have plenty of time for Q&A. I do want to say at the outset, I know we've gotten a number of questions about the technology hiccups we're having today. The issue is on there's a delay, and once you send us your email, and then you got to get the link to confirm your registration, confirm your contact information. There's a delay in those emails being sent out. They are coming through. They're just coming through too slowly. So I would ask of everyone to be a bit patient while we work out the hiccups. This isn't a time. It's an inconvenience, and one for which we apologize, and for which I apologize personally. But you have, as long as pre-registration is completed between now and the middle of next week, it has no impact on whether you're going to get a grant or not. You've got to get it done. It has to be completed between now and I believe next Wednesday by the close of business. And so please bear with us while we work through the gremlins on the email bit this morning, or this afternoon. It is working again. It's just working more slowly, but it will not it will definitively not impact your ability to get a grant. So again, I do apologize for the inconvenience. Most folks have been able to, as folks have been filling it out, we've had a few thousand people pre-register already today. The average time to pre-register is taking between 5 and 10, 15 minutes, something like that. So when you get your link, hopefully it's not going to be a huge amount of additional work to get it done. Again, we regret the hiccups, but we're working on it and hopefully get that resolved. So hopefully that addresses a good number of the questions patients might pepper me with, but she might choose to hit me with them again anyway. You never know.
Maybe if there's a new one.
Yeah.
On to some different, not technology related, question about special considerations for CARES grants for travel industry businesses, with the feeling that they were more affected even than restaurants, as they were not able to operate at all.
Yeah, so obviously some of the big questions there are related to things like the federal government and what they're going to do with airlines eventually. I'm as disappointed as anybody that it's October 19th and that question is still up in the air. But yeah, so I think the eligibility for we're providing larger dollar grants this time around. So in the kind of all other businesses bucket, travel and tourism businesses certainly eligible to apply there, and we'll certainly be able to access those funds.
And then a few questions about excluding home-based businesses. So if you can maybe address that again.
They are not excluded. Home-based businesses are eligible. They're most likely to fall into the micro business category, just given if you're home-based, you probably don't have a ton of direct employees, but that's up to you. And so those are the home-based businesses are eligible. You've got to be registered with the state. You've got to be in good standing with the Department of Labor, all those kinds of things. Those challenges are a little different for home-based businesses than for places with a commercial location, but home-based businesses are eligible for these programs, for this program.
A question about other funding and applying for the other phases of our grant programs, whether it was because there are several, I'm just going to combine them into one. If I applied to phase 1, if I applied to phase 2, if I applied for the loan program, does that affect my eligibility? Do I still need to pre-register and apply for phase 3?
Let me answer those in reverse order. Absolutely. If you intend to apply, if you wish to access this funding, you have to both pre-register and apply. Nothing you've done previously is going to put you into a automatic application or anything like that. So you have to register, you have to apply. Whether you've gotten a grant previously, whether you've gotten a loan previously, whether you've been denied previously, have to pre-register and apply. If you've gotten an EDA grant in phase 1 or phase 2, you are absolutely eligible to apply for phase 3. You're going to be able to you're going to have to be able to document that you've got an unmet need that is greater than the resources you've already received and less than the amount, or excuse me, greater than the amount remaining that the grant would be eligible to fund you for this time. Again, the sad reality is so many businesses are going to barely be able to see that hurdle. It's so low compared to the economic impact that this crisis has had on them. I don't see any meaningful reason, you're very likely to be able to qualify again. If you were denied the first couple times because of an eligibility issue, because you're not registered with the state, because you are you're engaged in a business that is deemed ineligible, like transient businesses and a few other things like that, you'll likely be declined again. I regret to inform you. But if you are, if you received funding in round 1 or round 2, if you received the PPP, if you received an insurance payment from business continuity insurance, you're eligible to apply. You just have to be able to document you've still got an unmet need and not have a duplication of benefits.
Patients, let me just throw in there that you'll also, of course, be able to apply to the PPE Access Program. There is no worry about duplication of benefits in the PPE Access Program, so a little bit different than some of the other grant programs. Less of a need to document what those other uses have been.
I am an LLC partnership. I am a sole proprietor. I don't have any full-time equivalent employees. And again, I'm putting together multiple questions into one. Am I considered a micro business with just myself as the owner and 1099 subcontractors, that type of situation?
Yeah, you're pretty likely. I don't want to over speculate about any individual business without knowing all the facts, but that sounds like it's going to be a micro business eligible applicant, so you'd be eligible for up to $5,000 in that scenario.
Tim, we will say one of the things we found is, yeah, if you are a 1099 employee, an individual contractor, a sole prop, please do just make sure that you're registered to do business
Yes.
with the state of New Jersey. It's really easy to do that. You can go onto the cv.business.nj.gov website and find information on how to check if you're registered, and if you're not registered, how to register. We'd encourage everybody to do that now. We've seen patients, those businesses that you've mentioned tend to be the ones who have get tripped up in that step. And so do it now before you pre-register. It should be fairly efficient and quick to do that, and then you can immediately go in next 8 days pre-register with the Grants 3 program.
Yes, and I'll add to that that within the pre-registration is a link for you to, if you're not sure, or even if you are sure, but you are hesitant now because we keep saying this, there's a link within the pre-registration that'll take you where you can enter your EIN, enter your business info, click submit, and the state will tell you if you're registered properly. And then also a link if you don't show up there, to the state website where you can get registered. Okay. Do ice cream shops and dessert shops classify as code 722? Where might I find that out?
I think they would. I hope they would. I love ice cream shops. I love all of our small businesses equally, but who doesn't love ice cream shops? Yeah, I think they should be eligible under that NAICS code. If they're not eligible for that NAICS code, they'd certainly be eligible for the, if they're for some reason classified under a different NAICS code, they'd be eligible for the third bucket, which opens that Monday, November 2nd. They'd likely be eligible, depending on how many employees they have and whether they're in good standing with other state agencies and all those kinds of things. But if one of the other categories, there's virtually no businesses that are categorically ineligible for grants this time around.
I did a quick look up, and I believe ice cream shops fall under the specialty foods NAICS code, which starts with the 7.2, and therefore should be eligible for that Grant 3.
That's why I like hanging around with Brian. He helps me out with real-time information instead of just making it up as we go, like I was doing. Thank you, Brian.
Does a small nonprofit qualify for a micro business or all other? Maybe a clarification as to the differentiation between all other and micro would be helpful.
Yeah, it's basically employee. It's full-time equivalent size. So if it's described as small, it depends on essentially how small. So 5 employees or fewer, 5 full-time equivalent employees or fewer is going to be in the micro business bucket. 6 or more, between 6 and 50, between 6 and 50 is going to be in the all other category. But nonprofits are eligible for micro, well, nonprofit. I don't know, there's a lot of nonprofit restaurants, but they're certainly eligible for the micro business and the all other businesses categories.
Is there an estimated time frame for how long before funding would be received?
Yeah, in the first couple rounds, we were able to start processing approvals within 5 or 6 business days of getting the applications in hand. We might actually be able to do it a little quicker this time, depending on how things work out. So we're up against a very tight deadline to get this money out, again, responsibly and with the right compliance and oversight, but by the end of this calendar year. So I would hope we'll be able to start making awards, in the single digits of November. And it's basically same day, once you get an approval, you get a grant agreement. It's pretty simple. It's not something you can't negotiate it. It's the grant agreement. You sign it. The funds are electronic fund transfer that day, if not the next day.
2019 annual revenue, is that gross or after deductions?
I don't know the answer to that question. We'll probably, unless Christina or Brian or Patience know the answer to that question, might have to get back to you offline on that one. Probably gross, but I don't know. I shouldn't even say. Why would I say probably gross? Like I know. I don't know. Christina, do you know that one?
It should be gross.
I believe it is gross.
I believe it is too.
My business is located a few streets over from the Opportunity Zone line in my town. How specific is the agency with those boundaries?
Very specific, because the federal government is very specific. It's based on census tracts. If you're not in one of those zones, you're not ineligible. You're just not in the. We're reserving at least 1/3 of the funding for those for businesses located in those zones. So it's not that you're ineligible. You're just not having there's not a reservation of funds for you per se. So we get pretty specific. It's automated. It's not a judgment factor of like, yeah, it's pretty close. You can see it. That counts. No, it's what census tract are you in based on the maps.
Yeah, same thing for the PPE program. For the PPE program, it does change the size of the discount that you would get. It will be based upon your business address, and really, we will plug a business address in and just see which census tract that is registered with. It's really non-discretionary on our part.
Next question is, in the same vein, is the address required for the opportunity zones based on where the business activity is located or where the business is registered?
I believe it's registered.
Yes. Where the business is registered, the exact location coordinates with the policy map.
So if my registered business address is a PO box, what happens there?
That's where the location of the PO box would be utilized.
Okay. Hold on, they've got some that I'm skipping because they were duplicated, so I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something. Are 501c6 organizations eligible for this grant?
Short answer, yes. Longer answer, you're gonna have to fill out a lobbying questionnaire because those funds cannot be used to lobby or engage in political activity. But as long as you can demonstrate that the funds are cordoned off and used for a COVID purpose, not political or lobbying activity, you should be good to go. Assuming you have the right number of employees and assuming other eligibility factors.
Does my business, must my business file a WR30 to be eligible? As a sole prop, I don't file that form.
The answer to that question is no, you do not have to file the WR30.
Brian, when does the PPE Access site go live?
Great. So the PPE Access site is live, so you can go there. It's just not fully built. Yeah, we don't have all the functions that we will have. So if you go there now, you'll be able to get more information about the program. You'll be able to start to use the PPE planning tool. Hopefully within the next week, we're in kind of final negotiations with several of the national retailers as well as a major New Jersey-based retailer, and hopefully we'll start to be able to have those 10% links on relatively quickly. And we'll, of course, do the appropriate kind of press blasts and make sure that we get the word out through our partners like the NJBIA and the chambers and such. Phase 2 of the program, which is the $20 million worth of additional discounts for businesses under 100 FTE, we're targeting end of this month. It really is, it's not 100% up to us. We need to make sure that our partners at the designated vendors are ready to launch as well. So we've been a little bit cautious to not put out a date yet, but we're looking towards the very end of this month, if not the very beginning of November, to get that launched.
And then another, a couple of PPE questions. Could you discuss the process for how a PPE vendor would contact us to get more involved?
Sure. If you're a business that is a manufacturer or wholesaler of PPE and you're interested in selling to a designated vendor, you can go onto our website, covid19.nj.gov/PPE access, and go to the section that says for manufacturers and wholesalers, and you'll be able to fill out an online information tool, and we will capture that information and then share that with the designated vendors. There's not a guarantee that they'll purchase from you, but we certainly want to make it as easy as possible for those designated vendors to sell into.
And I think some folks that joined late. So Tim, can you tell us again, where should folks go for more information on the program and to apply?
I
can't hear anything.
I think you're muted.
It looks like, to answer your question, patients, for all information, that one of the best places to go is the state's COVID business portal. That's cv.business.nj.gov. It's the the second line underneath the beautiful light bulb there on the slide.
And information on how to pre-register, as well as a sample of the pre-registration, are all located there. And I'll move to the next question and see where we are with sound. We're getting close to the end here. How does an organization find their NAICS code?
Yeah, it's something you can Google, but there's also a NAICS code lookup tool on the pre-registration tool.
And can people with multiple businesses apply for grants for more than one business?
If you have separate EINs, employee identification numbers, short answer is yes.
The same thing with the PPE program. Everything is done per tax identification number, which is usually the EIN number.
Would a food truck apply under restaurant or micro business?
I don't know the answer to that question. I have to follow up offline with that individual. Most patients, you're like both the questioner and you know most of the answers.
So again, your NAICS code is what's going to determine whether or not you're in the restaurant industry, and I believe that the food trucks are under that 722.
Yeah, they
are falling under that.
That's correct. They are.
Yeah.
Mobile food service is under 72 code.
Yeah.
Good indication this isn't all staged, by the way, because my colleagues are asking me questions I don't know the answers to. So it's a good indication that these are real questions. I wish I knew the answers to all of them.
Questions about what kind of expenses are eligible to use the grant funding on?
Again, sorry, I'm having audio troubles.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm saying I couldn't hear your question.
I think
eligible uses for grant funds.
Be used for. So a couple of categories. One is kind of revenue replacement for lost revenue. The second category is additional expenses that businesses have incurred due to COVID response measures. So if you're a small business and you've had to buy PPE or other capital purchases to support your business, that's able to be supported. Tim, other categories?
Yeah, Jen, revenue replacement means you can basically use it for rent, payroll, paying interest on loans, paying down debt, those kinds of things as well.
So we are at 2:58, and I know we are over on this webinar at 3 o'clock. I'll remind folks that there are a lot of answers to questions on the cv.business.nj.gov site. The frequently asked questions about the program are attached to the back end of the sample pre-registration. So you can find them there, and you can always call the COVID hotline at the EDA at 844-965-1125.
Great, thanks so much. Tim, Brian, Patience, thank you for sharing this information today. We'll certainly keep up links on our website as well, njbia.org/recovery. I again want to thank the New Jersey State Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce of Southern New Jersey, and Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey for presenting this program with us, along with today's sponsors, as you see on the screen. So everyone, get those pencils sharpened, get on the website, get pre-registered. You've got fair notice of what the process is now, and please seek assistance and support in doing this. As you know, there are organizations out there that can help you. You don't need to go it alone. So again, I want to thank EDA for sharing this important information today, and all those who have joined us. Have a great day, everyone. Continue to be well.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.